Information fueled, opinion driven. This is the Matt Muprhy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
All right, it's 1:06, and good afternoon. Welcome back. Matt Muprhy Show in progress. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Big news, as it was announced earlier today, we are shifting to afternoons starting at the beginning of the year. Brian Wilson made the announcement some weeks ago that he was retiring after 50 years in broadcasting, television, and radio alike. And we will be shifting to the afternoon drive slot. Very pleased to be able to announce that. Chad Benson coming in for us at the beginning of the year permanently from noon until 3. Excitement, excitement, excitement. But we'll be here for you in this time slot until then. We are excited to welcome our next guest. Let me tell you, this guy is getting the right press in the right places. I loved reading an article. You know, I have to figure out how to access the New York Times without actually paying for it. And I figured that out because Dan Mandis gave me his password, and I got to read an article that wasn't exactly flattering about Robby Starbuck, our own Robby Starbuck, the anti-DEI agitator that big companies fear most. Well, they should, because he has made an incredible amount of headway eliminating some of these woke DEI-style policies at some of the major companies around these United States of America. And we're pleased to welcome Robby Starbuck back to the show. What's up, Robby? How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm sorry. Fabulous.
And by the way, a little backstory. I was supposed to be on yesterday, but you graciously allowed me to move it a day because my daughter's appointment at driver services got moved, and I am proud to say Tennessee has a new licensed driver. So watch out on the road.
Uh-oh.
Because another Starbuck is loose.
This is dangerous news, Robby. Is your daughter 16?
Yep.
Oh, that's dangerous news. You know, I've not been blessed with children, Robby, and so I regularly tell my friends who have that I would like to move that age from 16 to 18, and all of them vehemently argue against that because they are tired of taking their kids to all of the different practices and, you know, whatever rehearsals or performance or whatever activities they might be doing.
Oh, yeah. No, if anything, I would argue for moving the age of adulthood to 21 because then they wouldn't go to college until then and they could stay home longer because I'm trying to figure out how to slow down time. You know, I can't imagine a world where they're all not home. But now we have a baby, too. So, you know, I've got at least another 18 years of, children in the home. So
good for you and Landon.
For 18 at least.
No, that's excellent. That's good news. Well, listen, wish your daughter the best. I'm certain that she learned from, Robby, are you the one that taught her how to drive?
Oh, yeah, and I'm a great driver. I haven't had a speeding ticket, in as long as I can remember. I want to say I was, 20 was the last time I had a speeding ticket.
Robby, everybody thinks they're a great driver. When's the last time you met somebody that went, I'm horrible behind the wheel?
Yeah, but you can kind of tell, right? I if anything, I'd put it this way. I belong in NASCAR, but I'm not there, because I have to do this, so... I don't like to brag too much, but I'm a pretty good driver.
I tell people everybody says that I'm an insane driver, that I drive too fast and I'm too reckless. And I tell them, I said, no, you think I don't realize what's going on. I know everything that's going on. Don't worry. We'll be fine. It doesn't really soothe anyone when I tell them that.
The biggest criticism is I'm like a grandpa, but hey.
That's good. That's good. Well, best of luck to your daughter in her driving. And she's not borrowing your car, right?
No. I had her learn on what's her first car, so
good for you.
She's not going to crash my car.
There you go. That's the more realistic approach that I like out of you. I'm not letting her crash my car. If and when. Look, you've been crashing the boards on this DEI and woke nonsense, and what a great success that you've had. It demonstrates to me that you put the right man for the task in the right position, and you give him the ability to go after some of these companies, and they recognize that it's a load of nonsense. Last week, Walmart announced that it was rolling back its diversity initiatives in a number of different ways, and I'll let you describe some of those ways. It's yet another example of how you push in the right places with these big companies, and you can see incredible success. Congratulations on that success.
Thank you. This is our biggest win yet, and we've shifted almost about 20 companies away from wokeness and to eliminate DEI. And so this was kind of the crowning one so far, and it's an important psychological one for shifting the rest of corporate America. And I think everybody understands, even the people who are my detractors, how big this is. We investigated them for a series of months, and when we went to them and presented sort of our investigation and what we intended to report on, we always like to check in to see if, there is something that we're missing in our story, like maybe a desire to change. And if there is that desire to change, then, we're always open to giving our advice on how they can sort of align with the consumers that I've kind of acted as a megaphone for. And then we amend our stories to be reflective of. That's kind of how we do things. And they agreed to a lot of points, like getting rid of the term Latinx, getting rid of DEI. They agreed to take out all of their sexual merchandise or items from their store and or items that promote transgenderism to children. So all of that stuff gone. They've committed to a full review and change in policy on funding pride events, which means essentially anything that promotes sexual topics to children will not be funded. And that's big because in today's world, if we're being really honest, that's pretty much every pride event out there, because they've become synonymous, with sexualizing and over-sexualizing every single one of those events. So essentially, all of that is gone. And there's a number of other points in there, finer points on, no preferential treatment for minority suppliers, which is a big one a lot of people, are not really in tune to. Minority suppliers in many cases are being given preferential treatment and being shown to consumers more often than ones that do not get the minority supplier certification. As a Latino myself, I think that's wrong. White people that check a box to say white, that's an immutable characteristic. They didn't choose to check that box. Like, that's how they were born. They should not be given less of or everybody else should not be given an advantage over them simply because they were born with a different box to check. That's crazy. And so I'm very happy with the changes. There's a couple more I left out, but for time, we'll stick with that. It's big changes that will have, I think really resounding effects across corporate America and the globe. In fact, I just got off the phone with a reporter in London, and they say this is the talk of the financial world there in Europe now, what we've been able to accomplish here, and that they're all kind of waiting for the effect it's going to have over there because, we've also given a lot of advice to people going into the new Trump administration on how you can take this stuff out in a rules-based way, because a lot of this, give you an example, and you tell me if I'm talking too much, but
no, you're good.
To a leader at a defense contractor, and they wanted to get rid of these policies, right? And so we did a series of meetings sort of outlining, what are the rollbacks you're going to do. And eventually we have a phone call that includes one of their corporate lawyers, and they say, well, we've got a big problem. We can't eliminate these sets of policies because we just went through the work and found out our DoD contracts require us to have these policies, and we lose them immediately if we rescind these policies. I said, there's no way. And I looked at it. They were right. The DoD contracts required them to have these policies. And so, day one, there's a ton of rules that we can change with the stroke of a pen. And I think it's going to take more than one day because he has a lot of day one items, right? So it's going to be a few weeks of getting a lot of the stuff worked out. But you need a rules-based order that changes essentially the roots of the federal government to get this institutionalized bigotry out of government and go back to a system that really believes in merit. Let's be great again. If America's going to be great again, let's start rewarding greatness among our citizens. And that's kind of how we need to approach contracts from the federal level. And then also defund institutions and universities that are perpetuating this ideology, because there's no reason we should be funding, private universities or even public universities who are perpetuating essentially what is indoctrination.
Well, and I want to go over a few points that you've just made, because I know you well enough to understand the purpose behind what you're attempting to do. And I don't believe it's your purpose to dictate to businesses how to run their companies. But what businesses cannot do, they're not allowed to enact specifically discriminatory policies against a certain groups of people, which is in effect what DEI does. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. 100%. There's a violation of existing anti-discrimination laws that people fought for in the civil rights movement. And, it can't be a one-way road where it only protects one race. It's meant to protect everybody. And these programs have been explicitly racist toward white people. In fact, we're investigating a company right now. I got HR emails leaked to us where you see a white candidate was chosen by the people who did the interviews, and people above that HR person said, nope, you got to hire a minority. We need more diversity. So the person that they intended to hire was a white person, and nope, that's not going to work strictly on the basis of race. That cannot happen. It's a violation of anti-discrimination laws. Now, in terms of, detractors will say you're trying to force behaviors at companies, doesn't that make you a tyrant? Actually, it makes me a really big advocate of free markets and capitalism, because this is capitalism, what you're watching. Mm-hmm. I'm acting as a megaphone for millions of people who resent this crazy ideology. They're tired of funding it. They don't want, when they go to a farm supply store, to fund a pride parade. They want to just pay for their stuff and have it fund the wages of employees. And then if executives who are making money on the top end want to go fund some endeavor on their own private time, like, go knock yourself out. But we don't want to be funding it through our dollars that we spend at a company. And so we're just essentially acting as a megaphone for the feelings of your average consumer. And the companies are getting the message, because when we focus on a company, there's a financial effect that happens. When we focused on Tractor Supply, they lost almost $3 billion in market cap. When we focused on John Deere, they lost $10 billion in market cap. Companies got the financial message, and it's why big companies now like Walmart, seeing Black Friday was right around the corner when we were having these conversations, said, we don't want to feel those financial effects, because they're real, and there really are millions of people who are acting on the basis of these reports he's putting out.
Well, and it demonstrates to me,
play that game.
And it demonstrates to me too, Robby. I mean, the effectiveness of your campaign is obvious, given the number of companies that have decided to go this path once you call them out. But it also demonstrates to me that they are aware that if their consumers knew about some of the policies, the discriminatory programs that they had put in place, that the customers would not react well to. And it goes to the heart of what you're saying about capitalism, that if all you're doing, I mean, I don't want to say all you're doing, because it's a tremendous amount of work, I'm sure, but what you are doing is drawing attention and making sure that the potential customers of, name your company, and I don't want to name any of the companies that have shifted, because I want to applaud them. I want them to be definitely congratulated. But you name, XYZ company, they know that if their customer base understood the policies that they had enacted, in the darkness, if you draw light to that, they're going to suffer as a consequence of it. And we've seen it. You mentioned Tractor Supply. You mentioned John Deere.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned, too, we don't want to punish companies to do the right thing. In fact, there are models for proving that rejecting wokeness is a good thing. So what we need to do is actually double down and go to those places. I told you after Tractor Supply, I think I came on the radio with you and told you I went to Tractor Supply directly after. That's the first thing I did after they changed policy. Right. Same thing with Walmart. This last weekend, I went to Walmart, during this last break, during Thanksgiving, I went to Walmart with my kids. And, these are companies we hadn't shopped at because we knew about their woke policies. And then once they dropped them, we went. And so we need to double down on, going and being beneficial consumers to these companies that do the right thing. I'm a big believer in that, because we're about restoring this country and, making these jobs places where people can go and not feel like they're having this shoved down their throat. And to do that, we've got to show that there's a reward at the end. And so to that point, I want to point out that in the 24 hours after I announced the changes, because Walmart allowed me to announce the changes. Mm-hmm. In those 24 hours afterwards, there's this big media hubbub, right? And there's a lot of angry people on the left, and the DEI industry's like losing their minds. And they've tried to sell this idea for a long time that if you reject these policies, there's going to be just hell to pay in the stock market, right? Well, actually, every company, every single one that has changed their policy in the 24 hours after they've changed have had their stock go up, including in Walmart's case. It was actually, when you have a company that big, moves over 1% are not something you see, let's say a ton, right? Sure. And you don't really see much of a difference between competitor companies unless there's some really negative financial reason, right? Well, what actually happened was Walmart went up over 2% and Target went down 3%. In that 24-hour period. It continued into the next day where Amazon, same thing happened. Amazon stock went down and Walmart's going up, right? So there's this birth between their competitors who are still woke and then themselves. And so they're consistently going up. The competitors are going down. And the only thing that you could say is responsible for it is this story of wokeness. And so the market responded by saying, actually, we're big fans of them dropping these policies.
Well, and we're big fans of doing things the right way and an inclusive way that doesn't include specific discrimination of certain groups. I just want to name some of the names that you have talked about in the past, because this leads me to the ultimate question I want to ask you in the couple of minutes that we have left. Target, Amazon, Lowe's, Tractor Supply, Ford, Toyota, Harley-Davidson, Indian Motorcycle, Polaris, Stanley Black & Decker, DeWalt Tools, Craftsman, Caterpillar, Boeing, John Deere, Coors, Jack Daniels, and now Walmart. Most of these companies, I feel like, enacted many of their policies in 2020, 2021, in the aftermath of a fear campaign initiated by BLM and some of these other organizations. I don't know that they ever truly bought into the policies, but they had them in place, certainly. My question for you is DEI dead or at least dying, Robby, thanks in part to your efforts?
We're in the beginning parts of its death. And so it's important to understand DEI as an ideology is like a wounded animal right now. It's going to be doing a lot of biting toward the end, right? They're going to fight back, and we're prepared for that in every way. Thank God Kamala didn't win, because I think that I told people, we actually sat down, I had a meeting with my wife, and I said, if Kamala wins, they're going to try to find some way to make what we've accomplished illegal and try to criminalize it. And I truly believe that's what would have happened had she won, because we were having this success before Trump won the election strictly because you still can't ignore the financial reality of the harm that these policies do to a company. So, I'd say we're at the beginning of the end, and we're going to see this start to permeate even more throughout universities as they become acutely aware of the financial repercussions there are going to be for continuing these policies. And it's gonna keep going from there. And I think you're also going to see a rise in entertainment that is anti-woke. I think that's definitely going to happen. I've been having conversations across the board with some very, very influential people and funders out there. That's definitely going to happen, and that's going to have a really large effect, just like podcasts have had. Having so many podcasts lean to the right has had a major effect on just the way young people vote, and so I think entertainment's going to be the next domino there.
And any company on your horizon, obviously, I know that you will announce in your own time, but are you still working on other companies? I mean, Walmart is a huge win for America, frankly, and for fairness and for equality, I should say. But what's next?
I think I'm going to retire and just disappear from public life.
You got kids to teach to drive, right?
I was very excited. We're investigating a good number of companies still. This is a very important psychological win, but you can't give up just because you got the biggest employer in America to do this and say, oh, well, we fixed it. Nope. Right. There's a lot of big companies, a lot of sectors that need to learn their lesson. So we're going to do this and see it through to make sure that we really do our best to rid the country of this lunacy, because at the end of the day, this is too dangerous to not see through to the end.
Robby, thanks so much for everything you do. We are proud to have you within our community. You know how much we love what your work has accomplished. Tell Landon we said hello, and best of luck with that new driver in the family.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thankfully, she's a great driver.
Take care, buddy. I appreciate you. I'll believe it when I see it. 16-year-old female. I mean, not that females and males, I don't want to get into that debate. It's 24 after the hour on Super Talk.